I'm gonna let all of you guys collect in here real quick. Because I want to talk to you about this. Okay. God, dying over here. Okay. We're going to talk about what I did wrong and what I did right in the Dominican Republic. Fantastic time. Didn't have a bad day. Not one single bad day in the Dominican. But I do want to do this one thing with you guys. And that's teach you guys how to do a very simple 7-minute meditation. If you want to do that. Okay, I'm going to leave them right the name in the meditation. It's in the chat. It's a 7-minute chakra tune-up. And I've been doing it every single morning with my team in the morning. And I'm doing the Wim Hof method of breathing. So I'm going to just tell you how to do that. And then you can do it on your own. And you could use the link that I'm going to put in the description or down below. So you can listen to it every morning. Like if you just wake up every morning and you turn this on, it's going to do some things that'll help you concentrate. It'll give you more energy because it's the frequencies in our brains that makes us happy or sad or responsive to things like this stimulant right here, which is the most... You know what, you guys, as much as I care about you guys, I don't want to see you ruin yourself, ruin your life. So the reason why I bring these things up in addition to my lesson for the day or my history or my, oh gosh, because this is late night alumni, but it's early yet. Because normally we have listen, this is, I'm going to tell you what's up. I have friends in Germany that are still in Germany, that are still stationed in Germany. And right now it's morning time. So anytime you see me do these videos at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, it's in the afternoon in Germany. So anybody stationed at Ramstein Air Force Base that tunes in at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I'm usually doing something with them online live. And so, and it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just me talking to my friends. That's all I do when I have these live streams. We're sharing information about what it's like in Switzerland right now. And because we used to all go skiing in Switzerland. Every single time it got cold, we would go every weekend to Switzerland. So I've been at this traveling thing for a really long time, and it's in my best interest as a guy, a seasoned traveler, to help anybody that's planning on getting out of the country and going and maybe visiting first, which is I really recommend that you go visit first. Stay for a week, stay for 2 weeks, stay for a month, and decide where it is that you want to stay. Stay in different Airbnbs. Don't stay in the same place. Reason is because some guys go about this the wrong way. They think, oh, it's going to cost me $800 to go to the Dominican round trip, so I have to get cheap with my hotel. No, do not get cheap with your hotel. Do not get cheap with your Airbnb. Now, let's not be stupid. Unless you're trying to ball out and get a penthouse or something, you can get reasonably good, but see, that's subjective. It's subjective. I can live anywhere. Okay, I'm a Sylvester cat. I can live anywhere. But some of you guys are going to want those North American comforts of home when you stay in your hotel. Now, I have stayed in the worst hotel, and I wouldn't even call it a hotel, in all of the Dominican Republic. And the reason is because my Airbnb that I booked had canceled. And all the fucking hotels around that area were booked as well. So I had to go to this place called Boca Chica. Now, Boca Chica is where the beach is when you land in Santo Domingo. It's the closest beach nearby. And right there was Airbnbs galore. And then I saw one that was like $7 a night. I was like, well, I got to see this. $7 a night. What can you possibly expect for an Airbnb for $7 a night? Well, if any of you guys have ever been in jail in the Dominican Republic, then that will tell you what a $7 per night Airbnb cost is like in Boca Chica. It was hilarious because there were no doors. They were all cages. And you had like an old school, like like the old fashioned keys that you would you opened it like this. Now the shower, holy shit. I have never seen anything quite like this. But for $7, this is crazy. For $7, you get a stone bed, like a cement fucking bed, like jail. You get a tube coming out of the wall that has a hose valve on it. So that's your shower. There is no fucking hot water. There are no doors. There are no towels. I have no recollection of sink even being in this thing. So anyway, I stayed in Boca Chica. Now, I'm going to tell you guys what I did wrong. Now, how many of you guys want to hear what I did wrong with this stunner? Because I don't want to lie to you guys. I want to tell you absolutely everything I did wrong so that you don't make the same mistakes. Okay? Now, I'm talking to you guys as a person who has changed fundamentally over the years, and I don't act this way anymore. So if you guys want to blame me for my old behaviors, that's fine. I admit it. I did all that bad stuff. Any of you guys want to know anything bad I did? Absolutely. Most 99.9% of the time, if there was something that went sideways in a relationship, I was absolutely to blame. And it happens because a lot of us guys get hooked up with girls that are super, super beautiful. And for the first time in our life, they're not just beautiful, but they're also nice. And they treat us well. So we kind of lose our fucking minds and start simping for the girls that are making it easy for us. And that's what happened with me in the Dominican. I was overwhelmed because I was always told only date poor girls in the Dominican Republic. And I'm like, that's kind of stupid. So I meet a rich girl in the Dominican Republic who owns all of these hairdresser places and nail salons. And she lives in a nice barrio that it just so happens that her whole family lives in this part of the Dominican. And so everybody sees me and everybody's like, hello, oh my gosh, you're so handsome. I'm so happy to meet you. Oh, her name was Diana, by the way. And she was 5'2", beautiful. She was pretty, really pretty face. Just an awesome, just natural body. It was just amazing. Anyway, how did I screw this up? Well, remember I told you I flew into the Dominican Republic one night early. I flew in one night early. I went to Boca Chica. Well, what they don't tell you about Boca Chica, and this was a fucked up night for me, you guys, okay? I have been sober since the 19th of March, 2002. So tomorrow is my 22nd anniversary of not having touched a drop of alcohol since the 19th of March, 2002. That's 22 years. And I take that very seriously because I'm one of these guys that when I drank, I always got in trouble, always got in fights, always gotten my shit bashed in. So I'm telling you guys from firsthand experience is that if you're going to travel, stay away from the stuff that's going to hinder you from being able to move around freely and anything that's going to slow you down. Anything that's going to slow you down, don't mess with it. Just plow through it, wait till you get to your hotel room, figure stuff out, navigate, and then when you're in a position to not be out late at night in a place that you don't know and you're by yourself, screw all that. See what I'm saying? Save your money. You guys realize you can do anything you want. When you start to level up, you'll start to see that the friends that you start making are better people. And sometimes those people are better than you. I keep emphasizing this because it's true. We got to call a spade because there are people in this world that are better than you are. They're better than you are at being a father. They're better at you at being a husband. They're better at you being a wife. There's all these things that there are some people that are just straight up better than you. And I am one of the worst at saying, hey, I'm, master, jack of all trades, master of none. But that's half of the saying, okay? And I don't want to go into all that, but I want to get into more of my talk about this trip to the Dominican because this was the biggest screw up of my romantic life, period. Because I had just gotten out of the military and I started seeing this girl from Santo Domingo. Her father was the chief scientist at a beautiful laboratory that was, of all things, called Ética, which means ethics in Spanish. And I want to be honest with you guys. I went there as a volunteer teacher to teach him how to use lab equipment so that he could get his business going. But before that, I met his daughter. His daughter was so nice and so sweet. They invited me into their home, which, by the way, was a compound. So they had like this gated community of their own where like the sister lived over here and the aunt lived over here and then their cousins lived on that side of the street. And even though they were a rich family, it was still a very poor area. And even there, even in a nice house like that, like even some of the bathrooms didn't have like toilet seats, and that's normal though. I mean, anywhere you go in Latin America, you're gonna have houses that don't have toilet seats. You might rent a house that doesn't have a toilet seat. And another thing about the Dominican is you can't put toilet paper down the toilet. So don't put toilet paper. If you're going to visit somebody's house and they say put the toilet paper in the trash, just wrap it up, put the shit in the trash, literally. Don't laugh. You guys are laughing at me. I don't fucking like that when you laugh. Laugh with me, okay? You gotta laugh with me when I talk about the poopy, stupid shit that happens in the Dominican. You can't put toilet paper down the toilet because it'll stop it up. I don't know why. The physics don't make sense. So when you do go to the Dominican and then you go stay in Airbnb, and they say don't go put toilet paper down the toilet, take their word for it. Just do what they say. It's disgusting as fuck. Don't care. Don't worry about that. Just think about it. If somebody came and stayed in your house and you had some plumbing problem, and they came from some foreign country and they and or whatever, and you said, "Hey, look, guys, I got a little bit of plumbing problem. Do me a favor and don't throw, toilet paper down the toilet," and they do. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna make you look stupid. So the last thing in the world you want to do is really throw attention onto yourself when you're in the Dominican. Because, okay, I want to be honest with you guys because I found Santo Domingo to be a fucking nightmare. And when I say nightmare, okay, I had the luxury of going around to all of the medical colleges. And I know some of you guys are hating on me already when you hear me say I'm going to medical colleges. So fucking A I am, because there's a lot of talented people that get educated in Cuba and they live in the Dominican on the cheap. You guys, no idea how smart a move that is for people who want to become doctors, because Cuba has the best, and in Latin America, it's free to other countries. So let's say, for example, you move to Dominican and you meet Maritza, whatever, and she marries you, Harry Johnson. And so now Maritza Johnson is now an American citizen and you are a Dominican citizen. So now you are entitled to the same benefits that a Dominican gets. Isn't that cool? I mean, don't get me wrong. Panama is a pretty good deal when you're a retiree and you got that 50% discount card for food. Ho, ho, ho. You save so much money. And you know what? You could tell your chick, we're going to go 50-50, and then you get a 50% discount and you pay nothing. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't tell you guys to do that. I want to see you guys succeed. And I know a lot of passport bros don't really want to fucking help you because don't let out all the fucking secrets. No, man. There are certain things about the Dominican that if you're not aware and if you're not prepared in advance, you could go into a situation where you could get very quickly overwhelmed with all kinds of sensory overload, especially if you're a veteran. Oh my God. Veterans, especially if you have any kind of PTSD, are going to have sensory fucking overload like you have never, unless you've been to, in war. Not been in a while, okay? Just think about the blender. I don't need to say anything more. If you know about the blender, you'll understand what sensory overload is. So enough about that. When you get to the Dominican, it costs money from the second that you step foot out of the plane. It's going to cost you money. Every single person that talks to you in the Dominican Republic is going to ask you for money. Let's start at the very start. Ready, guys? Are you ready for this? This is not even getting off the fucking plane yet. Before you land, now, used to be back in the day that when you went on a plane and you traveled for some time, like if we're coming from Germany, it would be a 10 or 12 hour flight where you have 4 meals, sometimes 5 meals. None of these flights have any food on them whatsoever, except for their peanuts and expensive stuff that supposedly you got to pay for with your credit card. The minute that they swiped all these credit cards on the plane, there was a person that was skimming all of the cards from people buying stuff. This is not even getting off the plane yet. Skimming people's cards for buying Cokes and stuff, and then literally like jamming up their credit cards before they even get to the country. So having known that, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. What I failed to do is call my bank in the U.S. and say, I'm going to be in the Dominican for a month. What happens is when you go to another country and they see that you got purchases being done in other countries, in my case, the Dominican Republic, they flag your card, and because they don't want anybody to be using your card in another country or whatever. Because you have to tell your bank, I'm going to be going to blah, blah, blah for this date to this date, so that they don't block your card. You always have to have a plan B, second card, maybe even a second bank, have 2 cards in the event something like what happened to me happens to you in the Dominican Republic. So now I get to my hotel. So my first hotel that I go to that's in Santo Domingo is actually a very upscale, elegant, and like a very, very classical boutique hotel. But what they don't tell you is that the neighborhood that it is fucking horrible. Walking down the street, any direction, any time of day or night, there are people that are asking you if you want a manicure, pedicure, manicure, pedicure, manicure, pedicure. Literally, these are prostitutes that are standing within shoulder distance apart. And there are hundreds of them. As far as your eye can see. I was almost afraid that it was like a mob. Something was going on, like a protest or something. There's all these women standing out here. What's going on? That is what they do. They say that this street right here is all barbershops or nail salons. Let me tell you something. There are barbershops there you wouldn't find a fucking pair of scissors in. Okay? So, now the backstory is that, you know, they put some cloth on this pastor's face to get a haircut and a facial, and, you know, he has this thing on his face and he feels his willy being pulled out. And he peeks up like this. And it was some old ass Dominican lady that was doing that to him, you know. Got 5,000 or whatever. Anyway, so you kind of want to stay out of the shady places. You want to do all your research in advance because, I mean, I wasn't afraid. I'm not afraid of being in Latin America. I've been in a war twice. I don't give a shit. I'm not afraid of dying. But something that you need to do is be advanced, you know, prepared in advance. If you have situational awareness, you're fine. No one will mess with you. If you know where you're going in advance, you take Ubers, you take taxis the hotels are scams with the taxis. So you need to find a taxi place that lets you pay the taxi in advance at the stand. Because if not, they're going to screw you. If you get off the plane, the first thing you're going to find out that Uber ain't flying and pulling into fucking airports to pick your dumb ass up. thinking that, oh, I'm just gonna pay, $5 to get to my hotel. Bullshit. They beat the fuck out of the Uber driver. So you got to walk all the way the fuck outside the airport. Just take a taxi. It's expensive. It's like $28. I don't know what it is now, but taking a taxi from the airport to anywhere in Santo Domingo is going to be upward of 30, 40, $50. Because the system in most airports is they have taxis designated for the airports that work at the airports that take people out of the airports for a fucking lot of money. And if you're lucky enough to get one of those positions, you just jumped up into the upper class. Boom. And I'm not even kidding you, these are taxi drivers in the Dominican. So the Dominican automatically left me with a bad taste in my mouth. Then when I got to my hotel, my taxi driver is literally asking me for a tip. So I give him 20 pesos, not knowing the value of what the 20 pesos was. And he's like, this is like a piece of gum. That's what it is. I'm like, well, you insulted me like 5 times on my way here on my Spanish. So I guess that's all I, think about you. I think that's all you're worth. I was so mad. Okay, and that's stupid. I made that up. That's bullshit. I wouldn't do that to somebody. No, on the contrary, every country that you go to, every airport's going to be crazy expensive to try and leave on a regular taxi. If you don't want to do that, there's always a bus, but you never know where it is because it doesn't pull up there where you're just getting out. Oh, I'm just going to get on this bus. You're not going to do that. You got to walk real far, and it's just not worth it. Unless you're just a backpacker, then you do that. Fucking just get out there and get after it. So how did I fuck this up? I mean, think about it. The lead scientist of a very prestigious very, very prestigious laboratory who invited me to the Dominican Republic to teach on glassware and, how to use it. Because they have like special scales in laboratories that read as low as a microgram. And these are very, very expensive pieces of equipment. And the guy that owned the laboratory didn't know how to use any of his equipment because the people who had worked for him before went and opened another laboratory in the Dominican. So he asked me for my help, and I said, sure. So I meet his daughter. She is amazing. Grace, beautiful. And they invite me to their house, and they have like fish, and they take me to the beach and have the spaghetti. No, listen, guys, if you go to the beach with anybody in the Dominican, especially a family, the thing that they eat at the beach is spaghetti with ham and mayonnaise. That's what they eat. Everybody eats that. That's their community food. If you wish, you can get some of those $12 shrimps that are walking up and down, the guy with the big platter over his head that has lobster and shrimp. Those are real expensive, and it's, who the hell knows how fresh it is. I would probably steer clear of that, but it's cool to look at. Bring your own food to the beach. Bring your own water to the beach. Water is not drinkable there. So that was a great setup because the father was wealthy. The family was cool. They admired me for my name. They knew what I was capable of doing. And since I was doing this man a favor, he was doing me a favor by introducing me to how the culture is in the upper class in Santo Domingo. So I'm really cool about this. Now, what he didn't tell me was that his daughter was a single mother. Now, I hear what you're saying now. Oh, boy. Professor's going there to shoplift the poo nanny because he only wants to smash. And you'd be partially right, because if you saw her in person, you would probably do exactly the same thing I did. I was shoplifting the poo nanny. My excuse was this. The kid was a year and a half old. The kid's father was murdered, like shot to death by a gang in the Dominican. So this was a single mom by murder. Okay, so her husband was her actual husband, wasn't her boyfriend. This was her husband that she married and had a baby when they got married. So she was a good girl in that respect. But when she got with me, she was far beyond being a good girl anymore. And because her daddy was so powerful, he didn't want her running around with any more riffraff in the Dominican. So he basically was like grooming her to marry a rich foreigner, because she was very smart and very elegant and had like all the features that I liked. She had her own hair and interesting backstory for her boyfriend, because she liked the bad boys. This is so typical. They go and run with the bad boys, marry the bad boys. He dies doing bad boy stuff. She's left with a baby that's a year and a half old. Me, and here I am, the simp, come to save the day. You see what I'm saying? We lose our fucking minds when we see these Dominican girls that have that caramel colored skin. They call it cinnamon color. That's what they call it, canela. And they have their own like little baby doll hair, that curly hair. Okay, I'm gonna go back in time with you guys. In the 70s and 80s, when some of you guys were kids, when you went to school, there were black girls that had their hair, their normal natural hair, done in curls that were not done with chemicals. This is how they used to do little girls' hairs in the 70s and 80s, and they had like these things that they would tie up their hair with and had like glass balls. And then when they would take them out, they have these like tizzywink little curls. That's what I recall from the 70s and 80s. Now you come down to Latin America and you meet black girls that have their own hair, and they're adorable because they have like baby doll hair, and it's their hair. It's not the good hair, it's their hair. There's no products in it. They're not relaxed, none of that stuff. And so it's a different world, because I think that many cultures are led to believe that things are supposed to be a certain way. If they go to a different country, they must think it's weird, or it's not possible that things are that good, or it's so bad. Because you do take the good with the bad. And if you guys know that we're renovating the castle, and you know what? I'm motivated. I'm very, 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 very motivated to continue working on the castle. But because the cartel is actively shooting at people in this area where we have this said castle, we have an architect. He works. He brings his own people. We don't have to go there. Everything is secure. I am a little bit not frustrated, guys, because anytime there's a no, there's always a reason why. And if that's God keeping me away from a bad situation, and I don't care, I'll stay over here. Look, guys, we are one of the only fire academies in Mexico that accepts foreigners. I got a dude in here right now that's from Miami. Nice guy, music producer. He was a paramedic for who the hell knows how long. Comes down here to Mexico to visit me. He lost 30 kilograms. That's like 70 pounds. Then he went to the States and he came back again. This time he had to have like surgeries and stuff like that. But it helped him and brought him back to life, basically. And now it's like the same person I knew 10 years ago. So there's a lot to be said about, coming down and doing something medically. In Dominican, there's a lot of dentists. And I worked specifically alongside of different type of, I'm not a doctor. Just so you guys know, I am not a PhD in anything. I'm some dumbass on the internet that decided that I could teach at super high levels, and I never went to college for it. But that kind of worked out in my favor because it made me hungry for knowledge. And so as a result, they gave me positions that I was probably not scholastically qualified for, but my intelligence level gave me a shoe-in to just go in and try my best. People enjoyed my theories. I did follow schedules and books and all that stuff. But it's not something that I would want to do. I wouldn't want to be a full-time teacher. I would prefer to own the schools. That's a better deal for me. But I enjoy the hands-on of science, and I always have. And that's why when I went there, I taught these people how to make soap. Now, dirty folks, don't get mad at me, man. I went to the Dominican Republic, and I taught everybody in their compound how to make their own soap. A year later, they had like their own packaging. They like die cut fucking bars of soap. They were selling them in the grocery stores. So that was a win. And the fact that I had my hand in that, because I just taught them some basic chemistry, and they were able to recycle the old. Because it doesn't matter. There's a lot of countries that don't have regulations, so they have street food that's all fried. When that oil gets old, they throw it in the trash. This family went around to every single restaurant and started collecting all the vegetable oil, and making soap out of the stuff. So I guess they had, graduated into making other, artisanal soaps and making fancy packaging and different scents and stuff like that. But it was literally a class that took me an hour to teach this family. They took good notes. They turned their entire like living rooms and like put like shelves up and stuff with all the soap that we're selling in the grocery stores. And then they got to the point where they were delivering on motorcycles. This was crazy because I never expected these people to take hold, because you always give good people good ideas, and a lot of times they're like, oh, thanks for the good idea, and they don't fucking do anything with it. Or you give somebody your favorite book. You're like, look, man, you're a friend, and I just finished this book, and it is the best book. I want you to have it. I want you to read it. I want it to bless your life. I want it to do things for you that it did for me. And they will take the fucking book and rip off the covers and eat the pages, because people are not programmed like you. So in a situation where you're going to a foreign country, you need to be 50 moves ahead, because people are going to always see you as a foreigner. I don't give a fuck how long you were in the Dominican for. You will always be seen as the foreigner. I went grocery shopping because I was staying with this family, and I said, you know what, the best I can do, you guys, is for you guys are letting me stay in your home. You guys are letting me, getting me work with you and meeting, all these obligations that the government wanted this guy to have in place. And I was happy to do it because I was being able to ride in a car. I was able to ride a motorcycle. I rode several motorcycles. And you know what I mean? This dude was like grooming me to meet his daughter, to like marry his fucking daughter. He said, I'll tell you something, Professor Williams. My daughter, the most beautiful girl in the world. She's going to make for you a perfect wife. And I'm like, oh no, she's not. But there's one of those things. It's that I knew in advance that he had a pretty daughter and all that stuff, but I knew that I was not interested in somebody that was with a gangster before. You follow me? There's one of these things about being a stepfather that's not a very good thing. I know there's guys out there that play stepfathers and you feel like you're respected and all that stuff, but in a situation where the family of the baby, the father of the baby, is a gangster or a mafia or some kind of gang-related stuff, you don't want to be with that shit. So I made it a point, no matter how beautiful she was, no matter how many nice things she did for me, she would make the call at like 11 o'clock at night and say, I would like 2 patacones and a piece of ham. And she would fry those patacones for me at like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. Anything I wanted whatsoever. There was nothing that I didn't. I built them a bathroom. I built them a water treatment plant in their house. They had so much MacGyver shit. It was the best. But let me do whatever I wanted because, I knew how to do stuff. So I said, hey, I want to teach you how to do. I don't want to just put it together for you. I want you to work with me, put it together, and I'll explain it as we put the different stages in for this water treatment plant we built in your house. And so if any guys didn't know my background, I was in civil engineering in the Air Force. And I learned how to make water, period, basically. And so I, tinkering around with stuff, I was like, you know what? They can have their own little water plant because they have stones. They have sand from they have sand in here, and that's usable. and they have like little pebbles and stuff like that. So, and they have all of these plastic water bottles. What's up with all these plastic water bottles? Well, we collect them. And so I said, so what are the chances of you guys having a business selling water here? Because no, because Coca-Cola owns the water rights to the entire island. No one's allowed to sell water that's not through, what was it, Danasi or something like that? That was in the States, but we had Cielo down here. And so you weren't allowed to sell water to compete with Coca-Cola. So I said, well, they are talking about the groundwater. They're not talking about the 7 inches of rain that you get per month, because that translates to probably 4,000 gallons of fucking water. If you had to find a way to collect it on your roof, you could collect all this, put gutters on it, and then collect the water, run it through the filtration system, treat it with ozone, fill your newly sanitized water bottles, get a heat gun, put your own seals on it, and then you get your cousins who have all these motorcycles to deliver water all day long. And like I said, a year later, they had a list though, because I was one of these guys that back in the day was The Secret. You guys remember that? That was all the rage. Like, The Secret was what you would do is, your power positive thinking, and you would write all your goals down, like the dream sheet and all that stuff. And it worked for some of these certain people, and then the rest of it. It was a movie, but it was based off a book that some lady in Australia had written. Now, I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to tell you that it doesn't align with my values. So, but when at the time it didn't matter to me back then. But I was interested in getting money, having stuff, being able to visualize it, and not have to work so hard in order to get my goals. Pretty logical. So when I watched The Secret, I started doing all these things. I started doing all the visualization. And I started to say, hey, you know what I really want to do? I want to move to the Dominican Republic. I want to live on the beach in a, beachside little cabana that has a carport, and I want a dune buggy, like a Volkswagen dune buggy. And I would like a nice, hot 20-something-year-old girlfriend that's just going to go and do everything with me. And she might be a local girl or from somebody from another part of the island, but I want her to go with me everywhere, and I want to film everything, and I want to have like the adventurous life. That was my plan in the Dominican Republic. Instead, because I went to Boca Chica, the first night I arrived in the Dominican. Now remember something, guys. This is the daughter that I had only been talking to. I had no formal relationship with this girl yet. She had been talking to me for months when I was still in Panama. And I said, I'm going to come and I'm going to meet you, and I'm working with your father, and we're going to be there for months, and we're going to get to know each other. Just, you know what I mean? Be cool. I'm a real cool guy, laid back. So when I get there, I meet her cousin. And I said, we're going to go to the grocery store because I want to eat all the foods that you make. I know you cook, and you actually have a cook for everybody. But I want you to teach me like all your recipes. I want to know what these foods are called. I want to know what this fruit is that I've never seen before. I want to know everything there is to know about your cuisine. Because a lot of times in the Dominican, the people only want to bring out their best to you. Like their best drinks, their best foods, their best music. And when they do that, they're offering you their best. And so when they do that, try your best not to be a jerk. Because a lot of it looks like, you and I would laugh and say, oh, they're lighting a barbecue grill with a melted Coca-Cola bottle. Now you and I will go, that's ridiculous. That's toxic. But that's every single thing they have. And they'll fire up a barbecue grill in less than a minute using this petroleum shit. And they won't even bat an eye because they don't realize it's toxic smoke. So the Dominican has various different stratuses. And the poorest of the poor would be a 1. And the richest of the rich would be like the 7s. And so when in reality there is none. There's only 2. There's 1 through 6, and there's 7. Poorest, richest. Poorest, 90 something percent. Richest, 1% through 10%, and a lot of times these are foreigners. So I was able to sleep the night in a Dominican jail. Took a shower through a garden hose with some freezing ass cold water. Walked down to the main area to find food, heard music, saw people dancing. They had like a margarita bar or some tourist shit. I don't drink alcohol, but I was there to watch and observe and try every single bit of street food they had everywhere. And of course, there are pros that work there. So the following day, when I take the taxi to the compound and meet the father and hello, I hope everything's well, bring my suitcase in. Now the girl is immediately trying to figure me out, asking me questions and stuff, but is a doll baby, you know what I mean? If you've met Dominican girls, they're always so affectionate. She spoke perfect English. She was Western educated. She had like a huge amount of salons, like hair salons. And it was all money that her father had given her to invest into these buildings. And she like hired like architects and designers and, and put ads in the paper to only hire the best, beauticians and stuff like that, and nail salons. And so it was a different story because you're going to date somebody that is up here, that doesn't need you. And then some of you guys are going to date women that are down here that just want money. And those are the ones that you weed out early, because you have to just ask them one question. Well, where do you live? When you know where they live in that part of town, you go to Google and you look up the GDP of the town. Like, what kind of money do they bring in? And you'll be able to determine very quickly who's who in that town. The last name might indicate the family, and the family might indicate how rich they are. Now, I'm not telling you guys to go gold digging, but do the opposite. Don't meet girls that are gold diggers. Plain and simple. And how do you weed them out? By doing just a little bit of due diligence. So as things progressed with me and this girl, she very smoothly asked to see my passport, and then she noted the stamp on my passport was the day prior than the day that I had told her that I was going to be coming to the Dominican. And then when she questioned me, where did you stay when you arrived in the Dominican? Oh, I stayed in Boca Chica. Boom. Immediately shut down. Immediately shut down. First of all, you lied to me about the day that you arrived here in the Dominican. That's not fair to me because I want to see you. But you didn't come here. Instead, you went somewhere else and you didn't tell me you were here. Then you're going to tell me that you stayed in some hotel. Who'd you stay in a hotel with? So here we go. Not that I am obligated to tell her anything. And I was a simp at this time in my life. So I really wanted to try and see, is this going to work, even though I just thoroughly fucked up? Because Latin girls are very, very, very forgiving to their womanizer husbands. And at the time, I was very much a womanizer. I am not that guy anymore. Like I told you at the very beginning of the story, I am referring to myself in the third person of that time in my life. Like I said, womanizing is not a thing. It's not fly to be fucking womanizer anymore. If you cheat on your wife, fuck you. No one wants to do business with you. No one trusts you. You're a weak dude, period. So when I go to the grocery store with these people, because I want them to cook for me, they rack up, no joke, 1, 2, 3 into the 4 shopping carts full of everything. Now I'm saying to myself, oh my God, I'm going to be here for a month and a half, and I got 4 shopping carts of all this gourmet food and anything I could possibly ask for. But I'm looking at this stuff. It's like a baby formula, like diapers, and I'm like, diapers? Who are these diapers for? Well, these are for me, my baby, and these are for my sister and her baby, and my cousin, and this. And then I'm like, thinking to myself, I'm getting shaken down by a rich family. Then when I go to ring up everything, now 4 carts, you'd think, oh man, this is gonna be expensive. I'm not even knowing where to begin. I'm looking at like smoked ham and shit, and like 4 boxes of spaghetti. That would be all I'd be buying. Mayonnaise at, like, you know what I mean? A tub of mayonnaise. A tub of mayonnaise that Patrice O'Neill would look. He'd be like, "What you want, about fucking bag? A tub of mayonnaise, a barrel of mayonnaise for you and your 7 kids." Remember him? I loved him, man. Patrice O'Neill knew what was up. And I don't complain about food. If you offer me food from any country, I am more than happy to eat it up. So, mayonnaise, spaghetti, smoked ham, that is the food that you eat in the Dominican Republic. When you go to the beach, if you meet a nice girl and you go with her family to the beach, you're going to want to bring spaghetti or the mayonnaise or the smoked ham and have it ready so that when, mom is chopping up all this stuff, you have that ready to go. How much do you think 4 shopping carts of food cost me? Go ahead. It was almost exactly $600. So, hindsight is 2020. Now that I am where I am, and I'm seeing, like, that family was so good. They were so sweet and so kind. And the least that I could do was buy them groceries so they could take care of me. But I was so cheap. And I wasn't used to people being nice. I wasn't used to people being that kind and that hospitable. I wasn't used to people being hospitable. I wasn't used to people being sweet. I was always suspicious of why people are being so nice to me. This doesn't make any sense. Sure, I'm going to be working in most prestigious laboratory in the entire country, but that doesn't mean that, So, long story short, I pulled a fast one. Like I said, I don't think that womanizers, if you're in a committed relationship, like married, that you shouldn't have girlfriends. You shouldn't have side chicks. You shouldn't be a womanizer, because I don't want to do business with somebody that cheats on their wife, because it means you're not trustworthy. Okay? Told you that my neighbor in Colombia had children with 70 women. He died 2 years ago. He had over 300 children with those women, and no telling how many grandchildren. And he was 70 something years old. So you know what the hell he was doing. Laying pipe. But I'm going to give you guys every bit of what's left. The Dominican, in my opinion, is very much Wild West. Like I said, poorest, richest. The poorest makes up for about 90%. The rest of it is very, very wealthy. Now, I'm not talking about $30,000 millionaires. When I say wealthy, I mean millionaires as in dollars and up. Because those are the people that if you associate with them, that's the caliber of people that you're going to be dealing with. It's not a requirement, but the chances are less than average of you getting robbed, mugged, taken advantage of, and so on. If you just scale up just a little bit, you see what I'm saying? If you aim low, you'll hit the target every time. But if you aim high, you know what I'm saying? The truth is that most people in the Dominican are very, very sweet. And if you ask them, some people will go out of the way to help you. Which is why I emphasize that you learn Spanish. Before you come down here and before you waste your time and you get exhausted, and you're like, oh man, I really love Latin America, but I'm too stupid to know how to learn a new language. Then that girl's not important to you. That new life that you so-called dreaming about, that you want to get out of the States and go off grid, not many people I know are actually prepared to do any of the above. Most people won't even be able to go overseas and stay overseas for very long because they just don't want to learn the damn language. So that is what happened to me in the Dominican. I'm very glad that I didn't go any deeper because the gyms were, everything was fucked up in the gyms. The power went off everywhere. The food was phenomenal. The girls were so nice. But like I said, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just not for me. And like I said, I was staying in a specific part of a bad area of Santo Domingo, supposedly. And I could have gone to a much nicer part of Santo Domingo that had wealthier people. Not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I was very fortunate, but in the end, I screwed up because I lied to some girl that I probably had a pretty good opportunity with, and her father would have taken care of me, and they would probably given me in one of the houses there in their little compound. So you see, I really blew it. Okay? I blew it because I was an ignorant idiot. And my challenge to you guys now is to always be authentic and always tell the truth, even if it's embarrassing. And that's been my theme for over a year now or more. Is that, because there gets to a point where you're a grown-ass man, you don't need to be lying to anybody about anything. No one's impressed if you're a millionaire. No one's impressed about anything you got. This is mentality of fucking people that are in love with money and that are envious of other people. That's all they talk about is money. They don't talk about what you might have done when you went to that foreign country. That's the stuff that impresses the hell out of me. I flew to a different country and went and calibrated fucking sensitive laboratory equipment absolutely for free in exchange for staying here and shacking up with this guy's daughter. And I screwed that up, but maybe I dodged a bullet. What do you guys think? Maybe I dodged a bullet. I was supposed to be with a single mother anyway. But by the grace of God, I didn't get killed. I didn't get mugged. But guys, it's been 24 hours since I've had a wink of sleep. So it's time for me to check out. And do appreciate you guys all for checking in. Look at that passport OG. Hey, bro. And I'm out.